everyone. I'm Sheetal Chopra, and very warm welcome to IPTSE's one of the very important podcasts, if I may say, because we are going to speak with Pankaj Soni, and you must be knowing him through his work and profession. I am taking this interview. I won't say Pankaj that it's an interview. It's a candid interaction, right? And since I have known him since many years, I thought why not I come to his office, speak to him, and maybe learn a few more things which I don't have a real on ground experience of. So that's where we are, Pankaj. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's even a bigger pleasure to have Sheetal here. That she is probably she's definitely more accomplished than me, but probably the best person for me to learn from with everything that you have achieved professionally and otherwise.
So nice of you. Thank you so much. And before I really get into what Pankaj's educational and experience has been, let me tell the audience that we first got connected, I think, back in 2010, later part of 2010, and I was heading one of the Chambers IP division, and we were talking on upcoming topic for India, the utility model, where frugal inventions could be protected, and India doesn't have that law. And in that committee setup, we saw Pankaj coming, and when he started speaking, I definitely knew that country now has an asset. Because when he started speaking, he actually brought in the concept of compulsory licensing and many aspects which generally people would not know. And from then on, we started interacting quite a lot. I have heard you a lot many times, even in various conferences. You've been moderating excellently well. The kind of questions that he puts on panelists, it's not an easy job, I must say, for any panelist to just be with him. They have to really prepare very well. Pankaj, a few things about yourself. I think it's important for our audience to know that you did your bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Birla Institute of Technology, BITS. It is a very premier institution. Then you went straight to US, got admitted in Illinois State University, and he did his MBA and also MS in applied computer science. Post that, I think you started into a profession in the IT sector since 1995 for good 7 to 8 years, and then he could venture into the complete legal background, and this is where you see a lot of books here. Don't get scared with it. I just spoke with Pankaj how much people have to be scared with all books and getting and venturing into a law field or not. He says with the internet age, it's not that important to go and read like a bookworm. And then you did your JD, which is doctorate in jurisprudence. He did it from Fordham University School of Law, US.
Yes.
Right? This was your educational, very strong background coupled with a lot of deep dive into industry sector. So you knew how innovation is happening, how research is happening. But IP was not anywhere here, right? So could you first tell to the audience what IP is generally, and then how did IP happen to you?
Okay, thank you. So first, I think I'll address the sort of the time that we first met at the FICCI conference almost 14 years back. So that was my first instance of actually sitting in an industry forum and meeting several people and seeing the conversations or hearing the conversations on IP in India. So it was a great introduction. Unfortunately, as you said, that whole utility model concept has not moved forward since.
Correct.
But that was the first time I met Sheetal, and we've been sort of connected since then. So that was a wonderful time. In terms of IP, so IP for me was like you said, was very new as a concept until I went to law school. Prior to law school, it was all sort of engineering and technology and business and work, because I think that's the way, at least I feel, my generation grew up. I'm from the generation where the engineer MBA combination was the most popular option, was the most sought after option, and that's sort of the option that I chose, because from the engineering going into the MBA program. And dating back to, I don't think any of the youngsters will know this, but going back to the 1994-95 time frame, we had this issue called the Y2K problem.
Yeah.
All systems, computer systems, were coded in a 2-digit year code, which in the year 2000 would crash all systems. So the fundamental idea was go and attack all those computer codes and change it from a 2-year system to a 4-year system. So anybody born recently, you probably identify your years or your year of birth or year of activity as a 4-year, but we 4-digit, but we grew up identifying it as a 2-digit. So that's the transformation that got me into the technology space. And I did that for many years. I did that, the implementation. I worked as an ERP consultant, coding, business analysis, etc. It was towards the end of my career in the IT field where I started working on legal aspects, the licensing part. And that was the introduction to law. There's an element of law that I got introduced to by marriage. My wife's family has been in the field for generations. So I inherited that knowledge post marriage, actual practical understanding of how law would work for somebody who's not a lawyer by training. Is this licensing aspect, and that got me thinking. I was at a time when I said I'm not as excited with the IT services sector that I'm doing right now. Let me look for a change. The idea was to get into this aspect. So went to law school, and that's when I got introduced to IP, because I think by default in a country like the US where IP is far more evolved. It was almost that you went and told somebody that I'm an engineer and I've done computer science and now I'm doing law, and they would say, but then why aren't you doing IP? So for them it was sort of a natural progression for an engineer to be involved with intellectual property, and more specifically with patent law. That got me interested, and that's when I first realized that you have this ability to protect intellectual aspects of things that touch your life on a day-to-day basis. We look at, you go to a store and you want to buy a certain product, but you associate that product with a certain brand. There's an intellectual property associated with it. You're driving a car, there's elements of innovation that has happened in the car that has intellectual property associated with it. So there's change that's happening around us on a daily basis, and that change has elements of intellectual property. The reason why my understanding of why it's called intellectual property is because it gives you a property right. It gives you a right of ownership, but it's not a tangible. It's not a table or a chair or something. It's something intangible. It's something intellectual, something that's created through your intellect, your brain power, etc. And you get that protection for it, and just felt very exciting.
Very nice. It's an interesting journey. So, if I understand correctly, and as much bio that I have read before preparing for this interview, I learned that you worked with a law firm there for a few years. Then you went to academic side to teach, and then now you're working with Remfry and Sagar, which is one of the premier legal firm in our country. And if we say top 10, your firm becomes the part of that list. What do you do in Remfry and Sagar, first of all? And so you are an IP litigator, right? And we call you Advocate Pankaj Soni. And also for the young audience here, like IPTSE is a initiative for young audience to learn about IP, as you just genericized in certain way. How I would want you to help them connect with their background, the educational background similar to yours, because many of the young Indian students, they do normal coursework, maths, science. IP doesn't fall anywhere except few law colleges where IP is a specialization, few schools where IP is taught as innovation broadly. How would you want them to connect with IP? Because in US you said it's their fabric.
Yes.
I saw recently an episode, the Shark Tank's counterpart of US, where the investors are asking, to every entrepreneur, do you have an IP? Do you have a trademark? Do you have copyright? You don't see that much here in India. So IP happened to you with serendipity, right? How would you want them to have this in their mainstream, and why?
So I think in the mainstream would be one of the ways that IPTSE is doing it. I think the ability to sort of educate the youngsters, to help them understand and appreciate that this is an aspect that's going to touch and does touch every aspect of your day-to-day life. Like I said, everything that you do has an IP element to it. A brand name has an IP element to it. Something that you read has an IP element to it. The design of a bottle has an IP element to it. The car that you drive has IP elements into it. We take it for granted because we're never taught how this is achieved. The work that goes behind behind the scenes for companies to create brands, to create cars. Everybody loves driving a BMW or a Lamborghini or a Mercedes, but what goes behind it? Medicines. Everybody likes to take a drug that is going to solve a problem of theirs. What goes into creating drugs, and how? And so the idea is that if we educate the youngsters and tell them that, look, this exists, this is something that's there around you, it impacts your day-to-day life, two things will happen. One, later on in life, they will hopefully appreciate the effort that goes into it and understand why respecting that right that somebody else has created is important.
True.
Secondly, that when they are in that position in their lives, because we are all creative people, if they are in a position where they are creative and they are innovative and they've come up with a good idea or a good thought or some change that's impactful, they know that they have the ability to protect it. They have the ability to do something with it. So the understanding of what they can do with a creative, innovative aspect of their ability is also important. And then when they go into the workforce, they just propagate this. And when they propagate it, it's like the concept of paying it forward. If you do it and you make somebody else learn about it and then they move it forward, I think just the ecosystem becomes better. And this is just from a policy perspective. This has got nothing to do with the monetary aspects of it. Leaving the monetary aspects aside, I think intellectual property is a right that should be appreciated, that should be cultivated and should be respected.
Right. So could we take this as a take home message, like जैसे हम अपने बच्चों को सिखाते हैं एक civic sense कि कोई बड़ा आए तो उसको नमस्ते करो. It's like a civic sense, right? Should this IP also become that kind of a thought process in every household where they say please respect IP? अभी आजकल क्या होता है, बच्चे गूगल खोलते हैं, AI आजकल खोल लेते हैं, there's chat GPT, and when the teacher gives them a question, they'll have a ready-made answers, right? So one side you're saying that IP should be respected, should be created, innovated, and the other side you're seeing technology disruption. You see AI where everything is available to you in platter. So how do you differentiate between the two? What should be the guiding light for the youngsters?
I think the guiding light should be, at the end of the day, I think fundamentally it's respecting the effort that somebody else puts into something. If somebody has put in an effort to create something, I think we need to respect it. So like you said, that we have to be able, you respect elders, you respect certain aspects of a community. You have to respect, if nothing else, respect the fact that somebody else has put in an effort. किसी और की मेहनत है, let that person get the fruit of that labor.
Right.
So once we respect it, then the IP system or the understanding of the IP system will become more robust. Chat GPT, AI, etc. is a big question mark. The whole world is dealing with it. Every conversation is happening around it. I think that it is important for everybody to understand. Again, it goes back to effort. If you are getting something that is the fruit of somebody else's effort, is that a good thing? I think that's the basic question that we have to ask. And if it's not a good thing, then we should not do it. We should not do it at a small scale, and we should not do it at a big scale. So each individual should not be doing it, and organizations and communities should not be doing it, because the labor that the other person or that entity is putting in gets diluted, and there's no incentive. We are here today, ChatGPT is here today, or we've reached this point because there's been a system that has rewarded people.
Right.
And when you are rewarded, and we see this in our day-to-day lives, students will see this. A student will understand that if they do something and the teacher rewards them, their parent rewards them, and reward doesn't have to be money. Reward can be appreciation, reward can be pat on the back, reward can be calling you out in front of your friends and saying that what a wonderful job you did. Those are all rewards. Every reward incentivizes us to do better and do more. I think IP is the same thing. A reward to an inventor, to a creator, incentivizes them to do more, do better, and that's how this society will evolve.
So one more connected question, and because I'm a course advisor to IPTSE, and this is a pro bono activity that I do, but certainly a lot of companies are supporting this initiative. So जैसे हम स्कूल कॉलेजेस में जाते हैं और बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं, एंड वी टेल देम कि आप आईपी को भी अपने मेन स्ट्रीम में लेके आओ, है ना. इट्स लाइक इनिशियली जब आपको नहीं मालूम होता उसका वैल्यू, तो हम बच्चे को पकड़ के सिखाते. फॉर देम टू रियली अप्रिशिएट दिस, बिकॉज इट्स समथिंग न्यू नाउ दे हैव टू लर्न, है ना. इट्स नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ देयर नॉर्मल कोर्स सब्जेक्ट. एक तो उनके ऊपर इतना प्रेशर है कि दे हैव टू डू मैथ, साइंस, सो मेनी सब्जेक्ट्स आर देयर. अब हम उनको बोल रहे हैं कि आप आईपीपी पढ़ो, so that they could appreciate it. In US I am sure that there was an ambience. आप कुछ भी IP create करते हो, आपके पास बहुत सारा opportunity होता है where people can handhold you and they take you to the next level. India में बहुत initiative हो रहा है. In so many universities they are setting up IP centers. Universities, not yet at school. There is Atal Innovation Mission doing a lot of good work through Niti Aayog with Atal Tinkering Labs. But do we have in India right ambience set already, which can really pull the minds to think about IP more seriously? Or if not, then what suggestions do you have for government?
See, I don't think we have the right setup yet. I think we have the right thought in place.
Yes.
The thought is there, the initiatives have started. A lot of it has to come with private-public collaboration. And I think that, as Remfrey and Sagar, when we had this chat a few months back, this was one of the things that we found very worthwhile. As one of the leading firms of IP in India, our aim is not only to do the best IP work for our clients. Our aim also is to make this profession a sustainable profession for the country, for people to look at this and say, I want to be an IP attorney. And so this initiative that IPTSE is doing is a great initiative. And I think if we have more initiatives like this, it will help. I do not think that it is only the government's burden to do it.
Correct.
I think that it has to be a combination. There has to be private enterprise that has to come up, has to step up, and has to do, its fair share of contribution to this. You're part of an organization that is already contributing, and so there has to be several others. And once we do that, we are literally one generation away from getting to where we want to get. We just have to make sure that this generation, these youngsters who are in grade 9 onwards, that when they are out in the workforce 6-7 years from now, they are ready to make that change and they're ready to appreciate that change.
True, very well said. So 2 more things about it. Again, getting back to the same question, how do we make these students appreciate the value of IP? तो वो एक ही तरीका होता है when they see monetization of it, है ना. तो monetary benefits 2 तरीके से आते हैं, पंकज, if I understand it correctly. One is कि आपने खुद innovate किया है and you are able to sell it and monetize it. I would number 1 want to know, what is the next step? Somebody has innovated something and they've learned basics of IP. What next? Who do they have to go to for finding a right buyer or licensee or the matchmaker? 1, because that is how you can utilize your IP for the benefit. Second is, आपने कुछ innovate नहीं किया है, आप अच्छे you have done your good work in terms of your academics, but आपकी job अच्छी लग गई है. अब उस जॉब में आईपी का कुछ लेना देना नहीं है ना, जनरली नहीं है, बिकॉज यू आर वर्किंग इन अ सर्टेन फील्ड. Learning of IP and being an IP literate citizen, पे स्केल में कितना डिफरेंस आता है from a person who doesn't have any understanding of IP?
See, so the first one,
Sorry, not to intervene you. आप अपना देखिए और अपने counterparts with your friends. You learned of IP and you are at a certain scale of earning, and they are also earning something, but without any IP know-how. What difference do you see in your living and in your pay scale and everything?
So that has actually changed very positively in India, if you ask me. I think that there was a time, I went to the US in 1993, so which we're talking about 1993, there was a lot of disparity. And I think one of the attractions of people wanting to go to outside India was the ability to make that income, because that is also important, and that's a very important part of life. That has changed now. When I look at my peers from college, from my engineering college, who have continued in the field, and there are several who've stayed in the field and now they've risen the ranks and they've become seniors in their organizations. I don't think monetarily there's that much of a difference. But I think understanding wise there may be. I think that maybe I'm able to appreciate the intellectual property aspects more than they have, because they have grown up in an ecosystem where that was not there. It was very new and very different. So they have not made it a part of their sort of day-to-day working. The biggest challenge I think that within organizations that IP is facing today is how to make IP a table topic discussion in the CXO meetings. Your CEOs, CFOs, CTOs are sitting and having these strategy meetings, and if IP is not a discussion there, then that is, I think, a problem that we have to try and solve. And I'm not sure that my peers are having those discussions. They're talking about bottom line and market and growth, but they may not be talking about IP. And I think that is what we have to try and achieve, is that when the next generation of leaders comes up, that they make IP a table topic. And that is important for a country like us. I think we are there's me being an Indian, I like to believe that we are very, very creative people. You look at the innovators outside India, you'll see that there's Indian origin innovators everywhere. So it's not that we don't know how to create. We talk about the jugaad system, which was one of the fundamental ideas of the utility model concept, but you talk about jugaad is because we are creative. We have ways of improving things so that they can impact our day-to-day lives. We just don't do anything about it. Right. So this goes to your first question that you asked about, how to understand the monetization part of it. That is a gap in India. I think that there's the infrastructure for that is not present there in India. I've had clients who've reached out to us and said, what do I do with my innovation? And I've actually not had a very good answer for them. I cannot point them to a certain organization that will say that you need to reach out to them, because it's not there. So we need to understand, and we need to be able to look at, appreciating the fact that IP exists and we should do something about it is step one. Now, like you said, once you've done it, understanding how that can create value to your organization. That is step two, which is missing, because the organizations, many of them who are innovating are just innovating. And suddenly they have all of these costs associated with innovation, and they're like, but this is the cost for me. मैंने तो इतने पैसे खर्च कर दिया, मेरे को मिला क्या उसका? So that understanding has to change. We have to be able to help people analyze and evaluate so that they can monetize it. Once you monetize it, once you see that IP can be monetized, you will appreciate those aspects, and probably appreciate the other side of it also, right? That I should respect it, because I want somebody to respect my IP, so I would want to respect somebody else's IP.
Correct.
So that element, I think, is
a missing
is
link
a
right
missing
now.
link, and I'm not sure if how quickly that should come in. I think that that's an element that has to come into India. But I think what India is facing right now, I believe that we are a very underutilized IP regime. Post-COVID, all conversations around India is, next market, growth market, the country to watch out for. Today's newspaper had a blurb by the McKinsey chairperson for Asia, talking about India is going to be the next focal point
Yes.
in the world. So yes, people have identified all of this. It's not getting translated into sort of a more robust IP regime from the company's perspective. The government has started doing a lot of things, which is a great step forward. We need more IP in India. We need more domestic IP to be coming out of India. Once that comes, I think the evaluation and monetization part will follow. But I don't think anybody, my sense is that maybe people are not ready to talk about monetization because we just don't have the numbers right now. I think the numbers have to increase. So organizations within them should again make this an understanding for the teams, the engineering teams that are doing the innovation, is how am I valuing this for an organization?
Yeah, and I was thinking, for a engineering student or from a law background, if IP becomes their main forte, they learn about it, and if they join any law firm, what would be their initial starting salary?
See, the salaries, again, it depends on the organization. I think we cannot compete with the likes of the Googles and the Microsoft and the big packages that you hear about that get sort of published in the newspapers of the packages. But if you look at the pay scales, I think they're at par with any non sort of big tech pay scales.
So, just to rephrase the question, if somebody wants to join Remfree and Sagar, and he's a lawyer, just a new pass out, but has an IP understanding, maybe they've taken IPTSE exam, passed it out, or they might have done some IPR course and they want to join you. One, does he have an opportunity, he or she? If not, what should he have done? And if they have done that, what pay scale do you offer for the starters?
So, in terms of qualification, if somebody is interested in doing patent, we require that they have a science or an engineering degree.
The background. Okay.
So the sort of undergraduate degree has to be in science or engineering, and then after that, and so we will hire, as several other law firms will also hire engineers,
Okay.
or science graduates, and then help them through the process of eventually getting a law degree, etc., and moving on. For non-science graduates, they always have the option to join the trademark, copyright, etc. practice, where you do not require a technical degree.
Okay.
I would say that at least I know within Remfree, we are one of the few firms that we actually look at every CV that gets sent to the firm.
So do you think, do you ask or do you call out for IP as their literacy in their resume, or it's just their background in engineering or whatever field? Take them and on ground train them on
Yes.
IP.
So the second part, we are looking for candidates who have certain skill set, communication, research, analytics,
but
writing.
not yet IP.
Not yet IP, because again, IP is something that we have done it for so long, and we have experts here who can train you
them.
in that. So we want you to have the skill set that we're looking for, and once you have the skill set that you're looking for, we are willing to train you. So we have an excellent and a pretty rigorous mentorship program here, which is why we believe that we end up training people really well at Remfree, and that's what is important. So not knowing IP is not a negative, but being good at your core subject area. If you're an engineer, being good at that core engineering discipline. If you are chemistry, then being good at that core, being good at expressing yourself, being open to research and analysis, because research and analysis, as you know, comes a lot with the legal aspects also. Those are the fundamental skills. curiosity. I think that law is a profession where you learn every day.
Yeah. So getting you back, because I want to hear the numbers and it's not coming out. So
Numbers I actually would love to give you. I can give it to you in private, but I don't know if, it changes. It varies based on
the IPTSE students, when anybody goes and teaches, any faculty, they ask, ठीक है मैं आज पढ़ लेता हूँ IP and एग्जाम भी क्रैक कर दूँ, तो अगर मेरा नौकरी लगता है किसी लॉ फर्म में या कहीं भी, तो मेरा स्टार्टिंग सैलरी क्या होगा? 30,000 होगा, 40,000, कुछ फिगर है उन बच्चों के लिए, ताकि, और दूसरा अगर उनके फ्रेंड जाते हैं टू अ नॉन IP फॉर्म, है ना, किसी इंडस्ट्री में जाते हैं, तो क्या डिस्टिंक्शन होता है? जैसे मैं आपको बताती हूँ, 2002 में व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड वर्किंग फर्स्ट in my pharma company, I was paid around 4,500 rupees per month. ठीक है? Now it's a big shift. So I learned about IP, and then the salary structure kept changing, and I saw that my counterpart friends who were not in IP, they were almost 1/3 of the salary as what I could get. तो एक तो ये कि उनका एंट्री पॉइंट भी उनको आप कितना, नॉट आप मतलब रेंट फ्री, बट जनरली.
So I understand. So I understand your question. उसमें क्या है कि, but to your point, when I started first in 1992, my salary was also 4,000 rupees a month, which was.
But you were in US then.
No, I started in India first. So pehle I worked in India for about a year before I went. So yes, I'm part of that generation which started at 4,000 rupees. But abhi ka, I can tell you that the range. Because again, I don't want to give a specific number, because what it'll do is it will tie people to a certain number. But I would say, because a lot of it depends on the city that you're working in. The bigger cities, you get a little bit more money. Maybe tier 2, tier 3 cities, you may get a little less money. And the range is pretty wide. The range, from my understanding, could be, your monthlies could be anywhere between 40,000 to 1 lakh.
This is for a fresher.
This is for a fresher.
तो 40 तो minimum मिलेगा इन लोगों को, ऐसा कह सकते हैं हम लोग?
I think that is, मतलब कह सकते हैं.
Okay, for a big law firm.
For a big law firm, I think 40 तो.
और tier 2, tier 1 अगर होगा तो 20 से 25,000 से स्टार्ट हो जाना चाहिए. For a IP learned person, or not even that?
Not even for a good. So you have to be the best in your area, in sort of your peer group, with the intellectual curiosity.
तो suppose एक IPTSE student comes to you with IP background, certainly because he would have learned about it, and one person you hire from a campus. What salary difference will you keep for them, or would it be same?
See, IP may, if you're talking about IP, just specifically IP, there's one institution that we know that does an IP related, IP focused LLB program. Right, तो उसमें क्या होता है कि they have got an LLB, so then they are classified differently. Yes. So but then they are evaluated differently, क्योंकि वो तो LLB slot में आ जाते हैं.
Correct.
We don't know of any particular organization that will give you that extended IP knowledge. जो अगर कोई certification हो गया या कुछ हो गया, it's something that may help them progress faster. But it doesn't necessarily change your starting point as much. But it shows the organization कि भाई ये person जो है, इसने थोड़ी मेहनत करी है, इसने कुछ अपने आप सीखने की कोशिश करी है, so his or her interest level is higher. So वो self motivated, self driven attitude थोड़ा project करता है उस student का, which is very helpful.
Okay. Getting back to your professional qualification and your education, you have done JD also, which is Doctorate of Jurisprudence, but that doesn't give a, it's not equivalent to PhD. Is that what I correctly
It's not it's not equivalent to PhD.
So what is it? और ये हमारे जो Indian students हैं, जैसे IPTSE के बहुत सारे students अभी सुनेंगे इस podcast को, what next in their career choice और एजुकेशनल चॉइस वुड यू लाइक टू रेकमेंड? जेडी उनको करना चाहिए कि नहीं, बाहर जाना चाहिए कि नहीं, या इंडिया में इनफ अपॉर्चुनिटी आज की डेट में है या नहीं? सो वो थोड़ा सा आप क्लैरिफाई करो.
आज की डेट में इंडिया में बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं. इफ आई इन 1993 वाज व्हेन आई वेंट टू द US. उस टाइम पे मुझे पैटेंट लॉ, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं था. एंड एज यू ऑल्सो नो, we signed that TRIPS compliant thing in 1995 and we had the 10-year window. So this was even before that. So IP as a concept was there, trademarks tha, but patent side mein, technology side mein, it wasn't that well known. Today there is. We are hiring people from, in fact, just yesterday we were interviewing engineering students for direct placement, for internship and placement.
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
वो awareness अब बढ़ गई है. I think India में बहुत सारे opportunities हैं. I've studied in the US, so I like that education system. For anybody who can go, money is an issue. Cost of education आजकल सब जगह बढ़ गया है. इंडिया में भी बढ़ गया है. इंडिया में now you have colleges, law colleges that are charging tens of lakhs of rupees. So
The private colleges.
price को हटा के, I think if you just keep the price aside, students should first decide कि what is their interest in. Do they like engineering or the sciences side, or they're lukewarm with it? And the only reason I say it is कि अगर आपने patent law करना है, and we get a lot of CVs from people who are interested in doing patent law and maybe have the capability also, but क्योंकि उन्होंने engineering या science नहीं किया है, they cannot qualify as a patent agent, so उनके लिए limitation हो जाता है. So अगर आपको वो थोड़ा है, curiosity है, technical curiosity है, then consider a science or a math or an engineering
As a background.
and
Okay.
then do law. I think law is a beautiful program. I think what it teaches you about the origin of our country, the constitution, how it was prepared, the constitution law, the aspects of contract law, of tort and evidence, ये सब it increases your awareness to such a great degree that if you have an opportunity that you can do this related to your profession, 100% do it. And उसके करने के बाद आपके options बहुत खुल जाएंगे. You can follow the law aspects. See, India में, again, slightly different from some of the other countries. India gives you 2 tracks in law. It gives you, and I'm not talking about in-house. In-house को हटा दे, because that's that's like corporate side. Just legal practice side में it gives you 2 options. एक आप law firm के साथ जाके काम कर सकते हो.
Correct.
And for people who like a little bit of consistency and stability, and they can go and start working for a law firm. अब जो लोग are very good speakers, like arguing, like the court system, they can go into the litigators, or they can go and start working with independent counsel, and then follow the track to become senior counsel. Very unique, because it helps you tap into what your likeness is. अब तो आप engineering करके भी उधर जा सकते हो.
Correct.
So it's not that अगर आपने engineering किया है आपको patent lawyer ही बनना है. आप engineering करके भी आप litigator बन सकते हो, and independent litigator. आप law firm में भी litigator बन सकते हो. So ये सारे options हैं, and firms are now encouraging people to follow a path that works for them. So I think it is very exciting. I think for children who are interested, they should find out, they should reach out to people, they should talk to people. पहले सुनने में आता था that the legal profession was a family profession, कि मतलब आपके father, grandfather वगैरह हैं, तो you have a way of moving ahead. But अगर आप अभी legal fraternity को देखोगे, that there are several, maybe even a majority of people who don't come with that family backing. तो ये सोचना कि मेरे फैमिली में, एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली में कोई लीगल प्रोफेशन में नहीं है, सो हाउ विल आई गो अहेड, वो अब नहीं रहा. आई थिंक वी आर फोकस्ड ऑन टैलेंट, एंड वी विल टेक द राइट टैलेंट, एंड द राइट टैलेंट विल मूव अप ऑलवेज.
Correct. So from the technical side of view, the ones who are hardcore engineers or scientists, if they want to venture in IP field, do they have to necessarily do law degree, or ये ज़रूरी नहीं है?
ज़रूरी नहीं है. अगेन आपके ट्रैक पे डिपेंड करता है. ज़रूरी
तो
नहीं.
कहाँ पे लॉ डिग्री ज़रूरी नहीं है और आप अपनी बेसिक डिग्री के साथ भी IP में ग्रो हो सकते हो?
I mean law firm में. So you
law
join
firm and company also.
And
anyway.
company in-house, a lot of so अगर आप देखेंगे, and a lot of companies what they've done is they have, अभी जो उनके lawyers हैं, the patent attorneys हैं, they all joined as engineers, or many of them joined as engineers. When I meet them and I talk to them, they joined as engineers, they did whatever, whether they were in R&D or product development or whatever, they did that for 5, 7, 10 years, and then they were looking for their next area of growth within the organization, and they moved into the patent department. So engineers outside of law firm, so this is that third option that they have, कि अगर आपने company join किया as an R&D person, you can still eventually make your way into
IP.
the IP field.
Wonderful.
And all of these have growth. And growth is all based on every person's individual ability.
Yeah, it's so nice to see. Like we used to say that oil is a new currency. Now it's IP as a new currency, and it's no more your just basic qualification, but also it's a new, complete kind of a world, if I may say, of intellectual property where one can venture, and you don't need to be very specifically literate on IP deep dive. You can learn. Many students can learn on the go.
Absolutely.
With experience.
Bilkul. One of the reasons that I joined Remfree in 2010 was I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Sagar.
Okay.
So Dr. Sagar was considered as one of the doyens of IP in India. 2010 if you remember Business World there was an article of Business World where the cover title was Lords of IPR. And in that article that they had written, the very first paragraph was about Dr. Sagar. So I'd come to India, I had the opportunity to meet him, and I realized that the opportunity to work with somebody like him, I would do that in any country in the world. So this was, going back to a question that you had asked earlier, that what made me make this decision to come to India. So I said the opportunity to work with somebody like him in a field that I want to work in a country where I have my roots. That combination was very good, and so I took a chance. Remfree took a chance, and it has worked out. So this was something that was worth taking a chance. And so from Dr. Sagar now we have Ashwin Julka, who's heading the firm, and I think that for youngsters, if they look at that as an opportunity, the opportunity to work with somebody like Ashwin, to work with somebody like some of the other leaders in different firms and different companies. I think that is something great, and I think India is at a stage where you will still have that opportunity. We're still small enough कि आपको direct access मिल जाएगा to work with those people, and at a stage where I know you are hoping, and I know we are hoping, and I know the rest of the IP fraternity is hoping that this is the beginning of the IP boom in India. The government has done a lot of wonderful things. There are some things that the government still needs to do. But I think we are in the right direction, and the youngsters are probably going to enter this profession at the time where it's going to become a very coveted profession.
Yeah, and how many interns do they get finally absorbed by your company, by your firm?
So we don't have a fixed number. So we don't have a pattern. It is based on need, and it is based on the individual.
Okay, but there are chances.
There are chances, yes.
Right.
There are chances, and I think the chances will improve because I think or at least that's what we are banking on, the regime to improve. More IP protection happening, more IP enforcement happening. When all of that happens, then the demand also increases.
Yeah.
So right now, there's always this battle between supply and demand. I think demand increase hoega, so if on the supply side we get good candidates, it will be great.
Very nice. I think when I speak to you, always we don't get to know how much time has already passed, and we can continue to discuss.
I know, but he's waving at us and
Yeah,
saying
that
his
is why,
time
and
is
I
over.
think this is not the only podcast. Hopefully we'll get more chances to speak with you, with other partners in the firm. And with this happy ending, I think we can close. And thank you so much, Pankaj, for being there. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. And always the passion or the teacher that we have, inherent teacher, keeps us work more and more beyond what our main KRAs in our respective companies are. And that this is where, Pankaj or me, myself, or other people in the fraternity, we try to share our experience. And this has been a pro bono activity.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful to you, Pankaj. You shared your all experiences with the students. I think good thing is that once the IPTSE students, you definitely have a opportunity to work as an intern in this firm and other firms who are supporting this initiative. And we look forward to keeping in touch.
Yes,
Pankaj,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for you for taking the time from your schedule to come in and do this. And
Sure.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope I've been able to give the students something to think about, and
Yeah.
they definitely have you as a mentor. So this is a lucky group of people. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. With this, I think we end the podcast and come back to you again with another learned person.
Yes.
Thank you.